This new Hunter Stasis build lets you resist damage like a stasis god. Sure, you're not invincible, but the damage you can withstand is amazing in all types of endgame PvE. You'll be using a new Hunter Exotic arms, the Renewal Grasps. This exotic essentially acts like a mini protective light, and pairing it with a good build setup, it can essentially feel like you're in a Well of Radiance with a Helm of Saint 14. Imagine that combo. Anyway, you'll be using the Duskfield Grenades that will provide you with damage resistance while standing inside the field. Ads will freeze left, right and centre, creating thousands, okay that's a bit excessive, hundreds of shards that will provide you with multiple benefits. Not to mention you'll focus on killing minor ads while you suppress and weaken the big ones. Now it may look a little bit hectic at first, but I can assure you, enemies shooting at you is actually helping you. You'll see soon enough. Now if you find this one useful, then be sure to leave a rating, comment, subscribe and share for more, as it really helps me out. And now before we start, this video is sponsored by Aware. They offer cheap and reliable Destiny 2 silver, more info down below along with my discount code. Now roll the intro because things are gonna get frosty real quick. Now firstly, like every build video, I do have a full playlist linked down below if you want to see more top builds like this one, as I do cover them on a weekly basis here on the channel. So if that is something that you are interested in, then be sure to check that out later. But for this build today, we are a Hunter rocking Stasis, and we're going to slow and freeze enemies like no tomorrow. We're going to have really quick cooldowns for all our abilities, and if you use the build correctly, as I explain in the video, you will be able to have your grenade back before your Duskfield Grenade disappears. Now in a harder activity like a Master or Grandmaster Nightfall, this extra protection is going to be really useful because just standing inside your own Duskfield Grenade will give you a lot of damage resistance against enemies. This is perfect if you want to do any sort of sword strat for boss DPS, because it's not just you that gets the extra protection, your whole team that are standing in there get that protection as well. So for those bosses that may just one-tap you while you're getting ready to stagger them, well this may just save you. And remember that the enemies are also going to freeze if they come anywhere near you. Using this in a GM may be less effective though, specifically because the melee won't insta-kill minor ads, as it's just simply not strong enough. So the consistency of getting your Duskfield Grenade back won't be as quick, but it will still be worth using if you do for some reason want to take a Hunter Stasis build into endgame PvE like a Grandmaster Nightfall. Although personally I'd limit it to a Master at most, but that's just because I prefer my Hunter's Infinite Invisibility build a lot more. So the way you'd start using the build is first throw down your Duskfield Grenade, ideally at a bunch of enemies, then kill them or shatter the crystal, which will spawn elemental shards. Stay in the grenades field to resist damage, and pick up those shards to become charged light. Then use your melee on ads to spawn more shards if you need them to get your grenade back, and just repeat. With this setup you should always be able to have your grenade back quickly or before the Duskfield Grenade actually disappears. That is depending how much damage you take and how many shards you pick up. Now this pairs really well with the glaive and a sword, because you can stay within your field and resist the damage, and enemies that come inside to attack you, such as an overload for example, will deal 50% less damage as well as having the resistance, and not to mention they will eventually freeze too, so being inside you're almost undefeatable. Now the exotic does state that allies get the damage resistance, but you do as well, as you can see the difference in damage taken, so it is a pretty good exotic to use, and I'm not sure if this is intentional or bugged, but either way, pretty effective in endgame PvE. Oh, and the other thing I like about this build is you can easily swap to speedrun mode if you want to. So moving to the setup of this one, there is no loadout restriction, so you can use what you want, although I strongly recommend a glaive and a sword, as those would pair well with the type of build style that we're going for. But for this build, I'm actually using a glaive and a rocket for ranged DPS. The glaive will mostly be used to suppress the enemies. Now the exotic is Renewal Grasps, and as always we'll get to that in just a moment after checking out the subclass. So we are a Stasis subclass using a Gambler's Dodge, so we can get our melee back when dodging near an enemy. Then of course you do need to put on a Duskfield Grenade, as this is a Duskfield Grenade build. Aspects, we're using Grim Harvest, where defeating slowed or frozen combatants creates stasis shards, and these shards grant melee energy when picked up. But then I'm also using Shatter Dive, which is required if you want to yeet across the map with your sword. Now I actually recommend using the Touch of Winter aspect instead of Shatter Dive, because Duskfield Grenades will increase the field size, but the fragments you want are Whisper of Refraction for class energy when defeating slowed or frozen enemies, so that we can get our melee back instantly. Then Whisper of Durance so our slows last longer. Whisper of Torment to gain grenade energy when we take damage, Whisper of Rime where collecting the stasis shard will grant us an overshield, and if using the Touch of Winter aspect, which I recommend, then use Whisper of Hunger as well to increase the melee energy gained when picking up shards. So basically your dodge will get your melee back, your melee will get you shards, and those shards will help get your grenade back, as well as giving you overshields and health. Now the Renewal Grasps Hunter Exotic. You can get this from Legend and Master Lost sectors when arms are the exotic reward, but you can also get it from completing the legendary campaign, although it won't be a high stat roll, so you're probably best farming it in lost sectors if I'm being honest. Now this exotic reads, your Duskfield Grenades have a much larger effect radius, and allies inside will take reduced damage and targets inside will deal reduced damage. Amazing if you're using swords and close range weaponry in all types of PvE content. Now for our main mods, and by the way you can get these mods from Ada 1 at the tower, but they do change daily so keep checking back, and the blue artifact mods obviously come from the seasonal artifact. Anyway, we're going to start by using Melee Wellmaker because using our stasis melee is pretty good as we'll have them quite frequently, and we'll get 2 of them so this will create stasis elemental wells. Then we'll have elemental shards where picking up those stasis shards will count as elemental wells. Another really good mod to use right there, and if you don't like these mods or feel they're not working for you, then you can swap them out, but from my setup I thought these were the best mods to use for this build, considering that we are able to make a ton of shards with our grenade and melee, and getting at melee will be really easy as those shards will give us melee energy, so you're pretty much just chaining abilities. But now on top of this we are going to be running elemental charge, so that we can become Charger Light by picking up those elemental wells, and you don't have to use Charger Light mods, you can go with an all out elemental well build. It is completely up to you, but with elemental charge we are going to be using those Charger Light stacks with firepower so that we can regain a portion of our grenade when we use it, consuming just 1 stack of Charger Light. And this mod stacks so that you can use 2, which is what you want to do if you can, but the mod itself is down to preference, so again, you don't have to use it to get your grenade back, but it will help a lot in getting it back much faster than you normally would. For me, I do like these mods together, but you can get your grenade back just as quick without any mod, as the subclass aspects and fragments will be helping out more than you think. Now for the normal mods, we are going to be using our ammo finder for our heavy weapon. Then for the gauntlets we have our champion mods that we may need. If you don't need them, then you can replace it to either grenade kickstart in stasis armor, or you can use impact induction to reduce our grenade cooldown when causing damage with our melee. In the chest we have thermoshock plating to resist solar and arc damage, which is the new seasonal artifact mod, and I'm also throwing on a void resist on top for that all-in-one or all-in-2 resist. For the leg armor we have Rocket Scavenger and Glaives Scavenger, that is for our special and heavy weapons, and then in the class, if you're using Glaives, you want to go with this one here to gain ability energy when suppressing a target, along with the suppressing glaive mod. Otherwise you can go with Lucent Finisher for heavy ammo when you are going up against champs, which is great when you're playing solo. Now in the artifact, I would prioritise getting Suppressing Glaive first, so if you're still working on those mods, aim to get that one first, and as for the stats for the Hunter, you want to max out Discipline as we are a grenade build, and then Recovery as your secondary. Then if you can have any extras, and you're trying to master this build, then going with Mobility would be the 3rd stat to max to 100. So this build will allow you to resist a stupid amount of damage if you use it right, especially when pairing with a glaive, because using a glaive you can block, and that block will almost guarantee that you stay alive for as long as you are blocking, which means you can just block, go around a corner, regen your health, and then get back into the action. I do like this build a lot, but is it better than the infinite invisibility build for the Hunter? Not really. But then again, that is a void build, and void builds right now are cracked inside of PvE. If you need a good Hunter void build, I have made one on the channel, and you can find that down below. Now guys, that there is your full new Hunter Stasis build to use in Destiny 2 Witch Queen Season 16, or Season of the Risen. Next, as always, be sure to check out the playlist down below for more top builds in the game that you can use in all types of endgame PvE, as I do cover them here on the channel weekly. And if you liked this one, feel free to leave a rating and let me know what you think about this build down below, and whatever you guys get up to, have a good one, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.